Have you ever walked into a room and felt like everyone was already judging you? This story is about a young man named Daniel and the worst first day of his life. Daniel stood outside the glass doors of his new office. His hands were cold even though it was a warm morning. He had waited 3 months for this job. Now that it was finally here, he felt more scared than happy. "You can do this," he whispered to himself. "Just breathe." He pushed the door open and walked inside. The office was bright and quiet, full of soft sounds, keyboards clicking, a printer humming, people talking in low voices. Daniel's new manager, a tall woman named Priya, walked over to greet him. She had a warm smile and kind eyes. "Welcome to the team, Daniel," she said. "We're so glad you're here." "Thank you," Daniel said. His voice came out smaller than he wanted. Priya led him through the office, introducing him to people. Daniel tried to remember every name, but his mind felt foggy, like it was full of fog and noise. He shook hands. He smiled. He nodded a lot, even when he wasn't sure what people meant. By the time they reached his desk, Daniel's shirt was already damp with sweat. He sat down slowly, trying to look calm. His computer screen was blank, waiting for him to log in. But nobody had given him a password yet. He looked around. Everyone else seemed busy. Nobody seemed to notice him. Minutes passed. Then 10 minutes. Daniel didn't want to bother anyone. He didn't want to seem helpless on his very first day. So he just sat there, staring at the blank screen, his heart beating fast. Finally, a young man at the next desk turned to him. His name tag said Marcus. "Hey," Marcus said, "you good?" "Yeah," Daniel said quickly, "just thinking." Marcus raised an eyebrow but didn't push. He turned back to his own screen. Daniel felt his face turn red. He hated that he had lied about something so small. But the truth felt embarrassing to say out loud. A little later, the team gathered for a morning meeting. Everyone sat around a long table holding coffee cups and notebooks. Priya stood at the front. "Let's go around the room," she said. "Daniel, since it's your first day, why don't you introduce yourself?" Every eye turned to him. Daniel's mouth went dry. He had practiced this introduction in the mirror that morning. But now the words seemed to disappear from his mind. He started. "I'm Daniel. I worked before at—" He stopped. He could feel his hands shaking under the table. "I'm really excited to be here," he finally said. But his voice cracked slightly on the last word. There was a short silence. Someone coughed. Marcus looked down at his notebook, avoiding eye contact. Priya smiled kindly and moved on to the next person. But Daniel could still feel the heat in his cheeks. He sat back in his chair, his heart sinking. "This is not how I wanted my first day to go," he thought. He had no idea that this awkward moment was only the beginning. The meeting continued, but Daniel barely heard a word. His mind kept replaying his shaky introduction over and over. When the meeting ended, people stood up and walked back to their desks. Daniel followed, feeling like everyone was still watching him. He sat down and finally got his computer password from someone in IT. At least now he had something to do besides stare at a blank screen. His first task was simple: send a welcome email to the team, introducing a new project he would be helping with. Daniel opened his email and started typing. He wanted this email to be perfect. He wanted to prove that he was smart, capable, and not the nervous mess from the meeting. He wrote it carefully. He checked it twice. Then he clicked send, feeling a small flicker of relief. But just seconds later, his stomach dropped. He had attached the wrong file. Instead of the project plan, he had attached a personal document. His own messy notes, full of half-finished thoughts and reminders like, "Buy milk," and "Call Mom back." Daniel stared at the screen in horror. He quickly opened the email again, hoping somehow he could undo it. But it was already gone. sent to the entire team, including Priya. His phone buzzed. It was a message from Marcus. "Lol, nice grocery list," it said with a laughing emoji. Daniel's face went hot with embarrassment. He wanted to disappear under his desk and never come out. He quickly typed a reply to the team. "Sorry, wrong attachment. Sending the real one now." His hands were shaking as he attached the correct file this time, checking it 3 times before hitting send. A few people replied with laughing emojis. One person wrote, "Welcome to the chaos." Another simply said, "Happens to everyone." But Daniel didn't feel comforted. He felt like the whole office now saw him as careless, someone who couldn't even send a simple email. He spent the rest of the morning avoiding eye contact with anyone. Every time someone walked near his desk, his shoulders tensed up. At lunchtime, Daniel didn't join the others. He stayed at his desk, eating a sandwich and staring at his screen. He told himself he was being too sensitive. But the feeling of shame stayed heavy in his chest. Through the glass walls of a meeting room, he could see Priya talking with another manager. He wondered if they were talking about him, about his mistakes, about how he wasn't ready for this job. His thoughts spiraled faster and faster. Maybe accepting this job had been a mistake. Maybe he wasn't good enough for a place like this. He thought about his old job, where everyone already knew him, where he didn't have to prove himself every 5 minutes. By 2 in the afternoon, Daniel felt completely drained, not from work, but from the constant fear of making another mistake. He had no way of knowing that the worst moment of his day was still ahead of him. Around 3 o'clock, Priya called Daniel into a small meeting room. "Just a quick chat," she said with a smile. But Daniel's heart still jumped into his throat. He followed her inside, his mind already racing through every mistake he had made that day. The email, the shaky introduction, the long silence after it. They sat down across from each other. Priya placed a folder on the table between them. "How's your first day going?" she asked gently. Daniel hesitated. He wanted to say great, but the word felt like a lie sitting on his tongue. "Honestly," he said slowly, "it's been a little rough." Priya nodded like she already knew. "I noticed you seemed nervous this morning," she said. "That's completely normal, you know." Daniel let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. "I think I made a bad first impression," he admitted. "The email, the introduction, I just feel like everyone thinks I don't belong here." Priya leaned back in her chair. "Can I tell you something?" she asked. "Yeah," Daniel nodded. "My first day here, I spilled coffee on my laptop during my first meeting," she said. "It got into the keyboard. I had to borrow a laptop for 2 days." Daniel blinked, surprised. "Really?" "Really," Priya said, smiling. "Everyone has a messy first-day story. Some people just hide it better than others." For the first time that day, Daniel felt a small bit of tension leave his shoulders. "The truth is," Priya continued, "we didn't hire you because you're perfect. We hired you because of how you think and how you solve problems. One nervous morning doesn't change that." Daniel looked down at his hands. "It just felt like everyone was judging me," he said quietly. "Some people probably laughed a little," Priya said honestly, "but not in a cruel way. We've all been there. Nobody actually thinks less of you." Daniel felt his throat tighten, but in a good way this time, like something heavy was finally loosening. "Thank you," he said. "I needed to hear that." "You're going to be okay, Daniel," Priya said, standing up. "Just give yourself permission to be new for a little while." As they walked out of the meeting room, Daniel felt lighter than he had all day. Not perfect, not confident yet, but lighter. He didn't know it yet, but this conversation would change how he saw the rest of the week. What he didn't expect was that he would soon get a real chance to show what he could actually do. The next morning, Daniel walked into the office with a different feeling in his chest. He was still a little nervous. But this time, it didn't feel quite so heavy. He greeted Marcus with a small wave. "Hey," Marcus said, smiling. "No grocery lists today?" Daniel laughed. Actually laughed for the first time since starting the job. "No promises," he said. That small joke felt like a tiny bridge being built between them. Later that morning, Priya gathered the team for an update on the new project. It was the one Daniel had been assigned to help with. "We've hit a small problem," Priya explained. "The client wants the report redesigned by tomorrow, but our usual designer is out sick." The room went quiet. People looked at each other, unsure who could take on the extra work. Daniel felt his heart speed up. But this time, it wasn't fear. It was something else, something closer to excitement. "I can help with that," he said before he could stop himself. Everyone turned to look at him. Priya raised her eyebrows, surprised. "You've done this kind of work before?" "At my last job," Daniel said, his voice steadier now. "I redesigned reports all the time. I think I can have a draft by tonight." Priya studied him for a moment, then nodded. "All right, show us what you got." Daniel spent the rest of the day completely focused. He barely noticed the hours passing. This was something he actually knew how to do well. He cleaned up confusing charts. He simplified long paragraphs into clear, simple points. He added small touches that made the report easier to read. By 6 in the evening, most of the office had gone home. But Daniel stayed, double-checking every page. Marcus stopped by his desk on his way out. "You're still here?" he asked. "Almost done," Daniel said, not looking up from his screen. "Need help with anything?" Daniel paused, then smiled. "Actually, yeah. Can you check page 3 for me? I want a second opinion." Marcus pulled up a chair, and for the next 20 minutes they worked side by side, pointing things out, making small jokes between corrections. It was the first time all week that Daniel felt like he was actually part of the team. Not the nervous new guy, just a teammate, solving a problem with someone else. When they finally finished, Marcus leaned back and grinned. "This is actually really good," he said. "Like, really good." "You think so?" Daniel asked, a little hopeful. "I know so," Marcus said. "Priya is going to love this." Daniel sent the finished report to Priya that night, his hand steady this time. No mistakes, no wrong attachments. He didn't know yet how she would react. But for the first time since starting the job, he felt proud of what he had done. The next morning, Daniel walked into the office a little earlier than usual. He wanted to be ready for whatever the day brought. He had barely sat down when Priya walked over, holding a printed copy of his report. Daniel's stomach tightened, just for a second. "Daniel," she said, "this is excellent work." He blinked, not sure he heard her correctly. "Really?" "Really," Priya said, smiling. "The client loved it. They said it was the clearest report we've sent them in months." Daniel felt a warmth spread through his chest, the kind of warmth that comes from finally getting something right. "I'm glad," he said. "I worked hard on it." "It shows," Priya said. "I want you to present it to the client yourself on our call this afternoon." Daniel's heart skipped, but this time the nervousness felt different. It felt like the kind of nervous that comes before something good, not something scary. "I'd like that," he said, and he meant it. Later that afternoon, Daniel sat in the meeting room, ready for the video call. Marcus gave him a quick thumbs up from across the room before the call started. When it was his turn to speak, Daniel took a deep breath, just like he had on his very first day. But this time his voice came out clear and steady. He explained the report calmly, answering questions with confidence he didn't even know he had. The client seemed pleased, nodding along as he spoke. When the call ended, Priya turned to him. "See," she said, "you've got this." Daniel smiled, a real, full smile. "I think I finally do," he said. That evening, as he packed up his things, Marcus walked over to his desk. "3 days ago, you sent your grocery list to the whole company," he said, grinning. Now the client thinks you're some kind of genius. Daniel laughed. A lot can change in 3 days. Funny how that works, Marcus said. First days are never the real you. They're just the scared version. Daniel thought about that on his walk home that evening. His first day had felt like the end of the world. But it was just one moment, not the whole story. He had been so afraid that one bad morning would define how people saw him forever. But people forget mistakes faster than we think. What they remember is how we show up afterward. If you've ever felt like one bad moment ruined everything, remember Daniel's story. A rough start doesn't decide how your story ends. What matters most is what you do next. If this story reminded you that it's okay to be new, to be nervous, and to keep trying anyway, give it a like and subscribe to Fluent Harbor for more simple stories like this one. And if you've ever had an awkward first day, tell us about it in the comments below.